Folks, we've been in an enormous period of robust stock market gains. Nobody would refute that. Hello, my name is John Convery, and welcome to this edition of Retire Yesterday, Live Today. Michael and I have been delighted to come to you every week here from the hearth at our ranch casa out here on the land, to basically reflect and share insights, provocative thoughts to hopefully raise your financial awareness to help you thrive in retirement, not just survive. So that's what we're going to do today. As always, I defer to Michael's great skill on laying out the framework for the show. So let's throw it in his lap and see what he has for you and I, my friends, today.
Yes, John does not have any idea what we're going to talk about in this show today, because we're going to go over 5 major retirement money blunders that you, my friends, need to avoid. Whether you're getting ready for retirement or already retired, you still may fall victim to some of the 5 money blunders. Starting with number 1, and that is many people, far too many people, really choose their retirement date based on age alone,
right.
Not knowing if they have enough income really to get themselves to and all the way through retirement.
Yeah, it's kind of backwards. You know, we recommend having audacious goals out in the future, and that can certainly include when you would love to retire. But more importantly, you need your number, which is an amount of money you're going to need, and a sustainable percentage as far as a cash flow distribution rate, so that you can basically have enough income from all sources, albeit Social Security, pension, dividends and income, or dividends and interest income, short-term capital gains, annuities, whatever it may be, so that you have enough income to cover all your non-negotiable expenses. And once you realize that you can get to that by reverse engineering a plan and then working backwards, then forwards, you can determine what your retirement age should be. You don't just want to choose a number because you think it's perfect for you or you're burnt out. You want to make sure you choose a number based on when you can thrive in retirement, not just survive. And that's something that we really want to focus with you on at a granular level to help you have a great, abundant retirement.
Yep, absolutely. That is tip number 1. You got to make sure you have your number before you can have your retirement date, because if you don't know your number, you don't know what age is best to retire, my friends. Tip number 2, and far too many people come on into the offices and talk to you directly about this. Tip number 2, having far too much money in stocks and really not having an advisor at all.
Right. Well, I'm not here to make a recommendation, folks, because I certainly don't know your situation. Obviously, stocks have a place for many people as a growth component of their portfolio. Bonds, whether it's the Barclays Aggregate Bond Index or some other ETF, has an opportunity to basically diversify in different asset classes. But at the end of the day, I always say rule number 1 in my book, Conquering the Fear of Outliving Your Money, rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is rule number 1. Don't lose money. Now, it seems evident, but for reasons beyond what I'll get into today, I covered in a prior program, is the essence of this is making sure that you have a sustainable cash flow, protecting your principal, creating an opportunity to be diversified and to grow your money to beat inflation, hopefully over time, because otherwise you die the death of 1,000 cuts. You're just getting poorer slowly. That's why a person pays a high price for certainty, having all their money in the bank, because you don't make enough to beat inflation. You can't keep pace with the rising price of 7-grain loaf of bread at Whole Foods, which used to be called whole paycheck, if you know what I mean. And then the other part is creating sustainable income. We love to see that macro from multiple sources, as I mentioned earlier, pension, albeit dividends, interest, whatever it is for you, maybe even a business interest or first deed trust. If you sold a piece of property and still hold a note secured by your home as a collateral that you sold, you basically are collecting maybe 6 or 7% interest because you are a mortgage holder. Whatever it's going to be, make sure that you focus on that income.
Yes, absolutely. That's tipper number 2 right there. Focusing too much money on stocks, and segueing into tip number 3. Tip number 3 is many people do not consider, and it is a great way to consider creating sustainable income, is tip number 3. People do not even consider annuities when Social Security really is an annuity in and of itself.
Well, think about it. America used to be a much different place. My father's generation, your father, maybe in their 80s or even 90s, hopefully and prayerfully, they're anointed with good health. I lost my dad on August 20th. They had a 21-gun salute for him when he was buried up in Trenton because he was a first Marine in the Korean War, Purple Heart recipient. So proud of him and want to honor his memory. But hopefully you still have your dad. And if you do, wonderful. And And if you don't, reminisce and reflect on polishing up those memories. But the truth is, my dad and your dad's generation, it was different. You could work for Kelly Springfield Tires. You could work for a big employer such as a GE and so on and so forth. And you had not only employment security for IBM. Remember Big Blue? IBM was the bellwether for the American economy. Not so much anymore, but you worked for IBM in sales. Not only did you have your uniform laid out with your white starched shirt and your blue tie, but also you had a pension for life without additional work. You get retired with a monogrammed shirt, a gold watch with your initials engraved, and a pension for the rest of your life. That America, by and large, doesn't exist anymore. The 401k opportunities and 403bs have hoisted or foisted upon us individually as employees the obligation to plan out and to diversify and invest well. But unfortunately, employer-sponsored pension plans and human resources departments, in my opinion, do very, very little to educate you. So you're left largely to just kind of pick, kind of like at random amongst a portfolio of mutual funds. Not really a great blueprint for success. Would you agree? So one of the things that's oftentimes overlooked, particularly if you don't have a pension, is allocating a portion of your money into some of the more innovative, for instance, indexed annuity products that can provide lifetime income, a paycheck for the rest of your life without work, but you don't have to give up the ownership of your capital. Your account can still be invested and perhaps grow based on some kind of market index at some level. But the truth is, many people will criticize annuities, Mike, and it's fascinating to me, but you've often said, it's funny that people will criticize annuities, but I've never ever heard a person criticize another person's pension plan.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It can be your option for a pension. Not for everybody, but don't overlook the power of that annuity to provide certainty and long-term lifetime income in a very uncertain world.
Yes, absolutely. You heard it here from John. You are in a yo-yo economy. Essentially,
yes.
You are on your own. And there are pros and cons to annuities, but you got to at least consider them because they can create guaranteed income streams for life. And that is what you need when it comes to retirement in order to thrive in retirement, not just survive. That is the 3 tips. Now we have 2 more. Tip number 4 is not remembering those old 401ks, because there are 401ks potentially out there from previous jobs.
That's right.
That you might have forgot about, or at the very least, not even updated.
Yes, very, very true. Oftentimes you have had a previous employer, a predecessor to where you currently work. You left money behind and almost you forget about it. Maybe it's a laggard. Maybe it's performing brilliantly because you haven't tinkered with it and you've been kind of like Rip Van Winkle, sleeping through over 40 years, wondering if it's still going to be there. But what we like to try to see folks do is consolidate where you can to simplify your life. Think about it. It makes sense that closer you get to retirement, the more you want to pay off burdensome debt, such as mortgages, the more you want to get rid of unnecessary expenses that don't contribute to your quality of life. And that's one of the reasons we've seen a subset of our clients taking a migratory path to moving to other areas where they can enjoy a simple, quiet life, but also save money on their property taxes and insurance. So at the end of the day, we encourage you to look back and pull forward your old 401ks. Don't overlook them, because very often when you left your employer behind for whatever good reason, you left money behind, and it's not necessarily a good idea just to kind of forget about and ignore that.
Yes, absolutely. We are going to get into tip number 5 in just a moment. But if you've got this far into the show, make sure you comment below some questions you'd like to see us answer, because we might bring your questions into next week's show.
That's exactly right.
Just make sure you comment on down below, because we're going to get into tip number 5, the last tip, the last major retirement money blunder that you must avoid, and that is being delirious about the rate of return. Because just because the market is doing good does not mean that's going to directly reflect your sequence of returns in retirement.
That's right. Listen, certainly I don't know what the markets are going to do tomorrow, and I don't think anybody else does either. You know what I'm saying? But here's the truth. Historically, no guarantee of future results, markets have flowed, and sometimes they ebb. They don't always go up. And it's a little disconcerting to me, because as I meet with people to talk to them about the risk management and their retirement income planning, etc., I oftentimes am hearing this chirping about, oh, look at how much money I'm making in the market. And it's almost like ethereal, like this romantic idea that this is going to go on forever. Folks, we've been in an enormous period of robust stock market gains. Nobody would refute that. And I'm not giving stock or bond advice here. I'm just stating the truth that's observable. If you look at the great lows of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it was at 6,600 back in March 2009. It's now at about 23,000. The markets have it's been a party, a celebration, victory. But you can only claim victory when you know what you can take to the bank, and that requires harvesting gains. Otherwise, those unrealized capital gains, that's why they're called that, unrealized, are unreal gains. Poof, they could go. And who knows? Man, 2000, 2001 and 2, the markets dropped 40%. Remember September 11th, that horrific experience, that attack on our nation's democracy with the shimmering World Trade Centers crashing to the ground in ashes. That almost wiped out the airline industry. 2008, after we had the helium bubble and housing burst. So again, if you're at that red zone, Mike, you hear me talk so much about it.
Absolutely.
When you're within 3 to 7 years of retirement, it's kind of like Peyton Manning being on the 7-yard line getting ready to score. He can call the audible at the line of scrimmage, but he can't call the 40-yard pass. If he did, he'd throw it out of the stadium. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, take stock of what we're saying. Just thoughts to provoke your awareness, to broaden and deepen your education. Not a recommendation, because we certainly don't know your situation, but take it to heart, because the mantle of responsibility is yours, my friend, as to how you're going to have retirement abundance.
Yes, absolutely. This has been the 5 major retirement money blunders that you must avoid.
That's right.
And this has been a very great show, so I think you guys should,
as always,
like it down below. We're going to get on out of here. I'm going to let John close out the show, but I will see you next Monday as well. Peace out.
Thank you, Mike. Hey, listen, I always love to sign off by sharing my proverbial paraphrase of the old Irish prayer. May I share it with you? Why, thank you. May the wind always be gently at your back. May the sun shine warmly on your face. May the misty low road rise up to meet the high road, my friend. And until our paths meet again, may God anoint you with good health, richly bless you, and have a magnificent day. Bye now.